Hello everybody, ODAT Nerd here, aka Terrence. This is the pre-recorded video that is going to play at the start of every Devember video. So what day is it? If you're watching this on the day that I recorded it, probably a day in December. What day? I don't know. I'm not creating 31 of these things. This is to tell you that we are working on the Devember project, which is a remote build system in Sublime Text. Now, down in the description, if I have done my job correctly, there should be a link to the playlist that has all of the videos in this series, which starts with the video that describes what the heck it is we're actually trying to build here. And this video will be a minimum of an hour long. I don't know how long it's going to go because I haven't recorded it yet. It's still November right now while I'm reading this to you out of my brain. That's not actually written down anywhere. I think that's probably easy to tell. I'm not very good at talking off the top of my head into a camera. So what are we going to be doing tonight? Don't know. Hopefully working on something really interesting, though. Probably should have thought that through a little bit more. In any case, we're going to go ahead and say the following. If you like these videos and you want to know when there's going to be more of them, subscribe to the channel, link in the description. If you're interested in videos that aren't live in nature, there's another channel I have that is going to be providing those. I have in the past and I will again. I'm just not right now because I'm doing this every day for December and it's taking up all my free time. Link to that is in the description. Like any videos that you find useful, comment on any videos if you have any questions, and most importantly, have a good time. So let's go ahead and give it to myself in the present, if you will, to continue on faceless because I don't have the sort of setup that allows me to stream my face while I'm working. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's dev stream. Let me just double check that the volume is correct. If you were watching and waiting for the stream to start, I was a couple of minutes late because I needed to fill the coffee maker with coffee. And you caught me in the middle of some changes here because, of course, I started Sublime throughout the day or at some point today, and then as the stream was getting ready here, I noted that there were in fact some issues with the code that I had implemented, well, several streams ago, but particularly in the implementation of our quick run through in last night's stream to get our client talking to something, if you will. And I've just been sort of tweaking around on that. And that is really the only work that has been done on this because, of course, I had a very busy day at work. Now, I know I said that the plan for today was to actually sit down and work through how we want the build to work, and I still plan on doing that if I have time. But what I actually wanted to do before we get to that point is finish the sort of integration-y type stuff between our network code in the client and the network code in the server, just so that we have something in place for ourselves to use. And that is what we are going to be doing here. I'm just going to click a button over here on the other monitor. And now let's show you what I have done just since the end of day 10. There are a couple of unstaged files here. Now, the first thing was this was causing a problem because this wants to load the log from test client, and test client wants to get stuff from the network file. So of course that's going to blow up in everyone's face. So I just went ahead and modified the code to pull the log function in over here. Now, as a matter of fact, maybe this might be easier to see in a side-by-side diff if I did this. So on the left is the network code as it exists in the head, and in the right is the network code the way it exists right now. And as we can see, instead of having plugin loaded, unloaded, and the connection manager here in the network code, I've pulled the log function into here. But otherwise, it does the same stuff. Now, one other thing I tweaked was, well, this actually isn't something that needed to happen, so we can No, we're gonna leave that there just to be sure. No, no, we're going to take that one out. We don't need that one. Oh, sorry, that's not how that works. That's how that works. And it reloaded the plugin in the background. And what I added in was this line here as a little bit of a bug fix, which we're going to cover in just a moment. And the other thing that was changed was the test client, where we can see we just before we used to get a manager object, which was a temporary thing. We didn't want to actually have that way. That was just the easiest way to get things working last night. And now we get the connection manager and the log function from there, and the log function is gone from here. And in its place is that plugin manage the network manager and the plugin loaded and unloaded. And I changed the name of that to be a little nicer. Now, potential issues with this code. The server is not currently running. So I'm going to clear this console like yaw. And here's what happens when I press the command to send a message to the server. I do that. Now it says it's creating a connection, then it's destroying a connection because there is an error while receiving because the connection was refused, and then it says gracefully closing connection, which is what we want. Basically, the lines with the dashes here are debug things we don't care about, and technically this one should also be the same. This is the one we care about. We should know that we tried to connect and we were unable to connect, and as a result, nothing happened there. Now, there was actually an issue with that until I made this change for this comment, as we can see here, because the send code, if you recall, looks to see if the socket is connected or not, and if the socket's not connected, then it tries to connect, or it checks that to see if it is connected or not, because it's only expected that this socket is going to select as writable when the connection attempt is completed, whether it succeeds or fails. And then we either set up the flag or we close the connection. Now, it can happen that the connection fails, as we noted, because this actually happened somewhere else in the receive code. And that's sort of an interesting thing there as well. Because if we look in the network thread, the first thing it does, I'm going to zoom that, is it checks to see if things are readable or writable, and it does reads before it does writes. So because it detected that the connection was busted in the receive end of this operation, by the time it came here, this had already closed the connection, and then this code tries to call get sock option to see if it's connected or not, and it blows up in your face. So there's this little test in here. Now, possibly the corrector way to pull something like that, error while receiving, which is this, would seem to indicate that maybe this gets tested to see if it's, it gets here because we're selecting it for reading before we know that it's connected. So that may also be an issue that we're going to look at here. And the other thing that we want to work on is the fact that this set timeout here is ridiculous. And there may also be an issue in that once the connection is closed, we need to know about that so we can try to initiate another one, because this is now doing nothing, as you can see. And why? Because it has a connection, but there is nothing. It has a connection, but the connection's not connected to anything. So we might say if self.connection is none or self.connection.socket is none, then create a new connection. Now it's totally unhappy about that in the net manager shutdown code. Because I forgot to copy this in. This is the first time I reloaded a plugin since then. I'm going to do that as well. Okay, now it's just going to be unhappy about that until we quit and restart, but that's a nice test. And there's something else I want to do that's unrelated to the stream. So we have it creating a network thread, initializing, entering the network loop. I'm going to do this, say that, and the result we get is creating connection, error while receiving, gracefully closing that connection. Now the connection is closed, right? Now I'm going to go ahead and clear that console. Previously, when we did this a second time, nothing happened. Now when we do it, we get it creating connection. So that is good. That's the sort of thing we want to have happen. And it seems to mostly be correct. Now, what we also perhaps want to do here is say, I guess we want the run in here. C for C and self connections if C dot socket is not done, and C dot connected. Actually, we could probably just say this, because the only way for it to be connected is if there is a socket, right? So we're going to call that good enough. We're going to fire this up, and that seems to be okay. Now I'm going to do this, and the error we see is what we expect to see: connection failed. We don't see error during receive. So that's also a nice little bug fix. So I'm going to say that we want to keep these two sets of changes. We're going to stage that file and stage that file and say clean up the network code a bit. Now that it's a new day and we're not all tired, this fixes the quick integration that we did in the last stream to get the network code working in the plugin in Sublime. In particular, there's actually some of that might not actually be needed anymore. So I might actually amend this in just a second now that I think about it. In particular, this tweaks making, no, we'll just leave, we'll say this. There was also a bug in the network code in which a socket was selected for reading when it wasn't connected yet, which does indeed return an error, but not in the place that we are set up to expect it. We're going to do that because if I did the, send, I don't think we need this anymore because now it's not possible. Well, actually, we may want that, yeah, because since sends do happen after receive, so if something selects as sendable and as receivable at the same time and the receive breaks the connection, we don't want that to happen. All right, so that's good. Now, I haven't actually started the timer yet for the stream. This does count as Devember stuff, but just very quickly before I actually fire that up. Whoa, that's not what I want. I want user console. We'll fix that. Actually, this can be an application command. Nah, we'll make it a window command. Hey, there we go. So we want to say, no, we're going to make it an application command. We'll see what we're doing here in just a second. I'm going to make an application command, and I'm going to say a window is equal to sublime.new window, which I'm pretty sure is a thing that exists, or not. Let's just take a look then, shall we? Do I have to create a active window? Oh, maybe I have to run the command new window and then do it. That may be. Excuse me. Where's my? We'll leave that there and bring this over here. Now this file's not actually properly named. We might say sublime dot. Well, try it this way. Sublime dot run command new window. That does what we want. Okay. We're going to create a new window. We're going to capture it. And then we're going to say window.new file. I'm pretty sure that's a thing. And the flags we want to provide it. Empty, transient, no. It returns the view. We're going to say view is equal window new file view dot set name console and view dot set scratch true. And here's the output of that. Sublime dot run command open console in window. We get this tab that says console, and then you can have a console in it. And it's a scratch buffer, so we can type whatever we want in there. And if we want to close that thing, nothing bad happens. And then as one last thing, we're going to PRV, turn off caps lock, PRV into user console input widget. Nope. That's the wrong one. User menu. Widget context. That's the one we want. Excuse me. Clear console appear up here too? Nope. It's just down there. We're going to say that the command is open console in window. Like so. So you can open the console and do this. And we might even throw no, we don't even need that open console in window. Yeah, that's good enough. Now I just want that because sometime I have a window similar to that over on this side that I usually keep, and sometimes I close it, and then I've been manually typing in commands to set the file to be scratched and whatnot. So I just wanted to be able to do that. Open my little console, throw it over on my other window, and be happy about the whole thing. So there we go. Now we're actually going to start the timer proper for our hour of code. And like I said, we're going to try and implement some sort of level of integration in here. Now, the first thing that we care about is we might want to see those log messages not in the log. That's one thing. We're seeing that. One thing I might like here, I think, is when it says connection failed, right here, or it says connection established. Maybe we actually want more information there. But what we might want to do is find the place where a new connection is being created, which is open connection like so. And we're going to say attempting, say connecting to and that. Now we're going to bump that up and say connection is equal to connection to that. And here we're going to format connection and return connection like so. And I'm going to save this file too, which destroys all that code and creates a new one. So I'm going to clear the console. Oops, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, I'm going to be doing that a lot because I'm used to that being the last item. Nevertheless, I'm going to hit the command to do something, and now we can see it saying connecting to and connection failed. And that's telling us where it's trying to connect and information that we currently don't care about, but until we know it's working, we do. Now, you might also want to have some sort of nice panel in the window that displays that sort of connection information. Now, unfortunately, I'm not sure off the top of my head what a good way to do that is because panels are per window, and as defined here, there could be any number of connection managers associated with any number of windows. So a quote unquote proper solution to a problem like that would be to always create a panel in a new window and somehow keep information from previous things. So I'm not sure what the best way to do that is. There's an SFTP panel here, right? And there, in the other window with the console, there's also an SFTP panel there. Now, here's what I'm going to try. Over in the right-hand side, I'm going to SFTP browse server, and I'm going to pick this local machine, and connection was refused because I don't currently have FTP set up on this machine. Now, if I do this, we don't see any output there, but we do see it over here. And interestingly enough, that's not actually the console, so that's kind of unfortunate for that. But in any case, I wonder. Word wrap has no effect on that. That's neither here nor there. So Wilbon's SFTP package just outputs stuff to presumably what is the current window. So if I browse server and pick this machine, now there's an entry here where there is only one on the other side. Now, when I was originally thinking of this, I thought it would be neat to have a panel that has all of the network type action, but realistically, it might just do that based on the build system. So we could assume that if we cared, we could sync that up, but probably we don't care. So we do have the Sublime and the Sublime plugin over here. Let's think about this a second. Tonight's coffee brought to you by some kind of high protein, low sugar chocolate milk creamer. How do we want this to work? What if the connection manager Uh, if stuff we logged, let's do some experimenting. Now, what do I have? Uh, this is in the open connection. We'll just quickly stage that to say display a message when we're trying to connect. In order to make debugging easier and also to be more informational, this makes a simple modification to create a log when a new connection is created. Now that's going to allow us to fiddle around with impunity, knowing that our change is not going to be lost forever. I'm going to go like that and say maybe we'll just call it panel for now. And we'll do the same thing we did up there. Args, we don't need dialog, we don't need error, we do need kw args. Up here, kw args happens after those two to make sure that they have actual values that definitely exist, because otherwise they wouldn't. And I need to open the console in my console window so I know what's happening. And it's worth noting that some things that are displayed in the panel are also displayed in the console. That's because it popped up that little error dialog box for me. Probably might actually do that, right? And oops, I closed my console. There we go. And this is going to be an interesting situation because the code in this network thing is what's actually doing the network code, but the code in test client is the one that creates the network manager. So no matter what we do in here, the one that this is already using is unaffected until we reload that one as well. So we probably want to copy that to get the appropriate message, right? And then we can say window is equal to sublime.active window. And here's the point where I say panels. Returns the list of the names of all panels that have not been marked as unlisted. Includes certain built-in panels in addition to output panels. Okay, so returns the name of the currently open panel or none. If no panel is I think panels in the panel switcher have a, oh boy, I am forever capitalizing single T's in the middle of something. I must have some sort of weird caption. Create output panel creates the view associated with the named output panel. Oh, return it, creating it if it's required. Show panel with the panel argument set to the name with output dot prefix. Okay, so I think we're going to test this. We want window.create panel. So we want to say window.create panel, and we have to provide it a name. We don't want this to be unlisted. Unlisted panels don't show up in this little selector down here in the corner. You have to know them and use a key binding to open them. We don't want that kind of action. Notice how this says output SFTP because it created its panel with the same thing here, and it adds output dot to the name. So create panel. What do we actually want to call this? Because this is remote build, we'll do that, and then we'll print window.panels just to see what appears. And now I can say from user.network import panel. Really? Oh, whoops. No, it's not in my user folder. Normally when I work in packages, they are in my user folder. It's in Devember 2018. And Window object has no attribute create panel. Are you sure? Oh, yeah, you're sure. Output panel. Try it again. So now the list of panels include output dot remote underscore build. I know there's an SFTP there too. It must do magic captioning. I'm going to swap this for remote build and see what happens. Now it's named remote underscore build there, but it's still got the name we want here. Now, unfortunately for us, I need to quit and restart in order to get those panels to go away. But that is definitely the one we want. Now, we want to do this. Window is sublime.active window. If output.remote build not in window.panels, then view is equal to that. Well, actually, no, we're not even going to do that. We're going to do this. And then we're going to say view equals window dot find output panel. Window dot find output panel output dot remote build. And we already have the message, so we can say view dot run command. Oh, actually, we might also say. We might say view is equal to there, even though we don't want to. So we can say view dot settings dot set. Oh. Read only true. I'm pretty sure that's not a settings. I was thinking of something else there, but that should be a thing. Set read only. Thus, set the read-only property on the buffer. Hang tight. Now, that's sort of annoying that we're doing that and then doing this. Now, the reason we don't want to just call create output panel is because when you create an output panel, it creates it for the first time, and then every other time you call create, it erases the content. So we want to create an output panel and have it be read-only, and then if it is in panels, then it finds the panel, which is redundant, but what can you do? And we're going to pass the arguments of characters of message and force of true. And we'll actually even throw a print in here to say print creating panel, else panel already exists, like so. And if I do that, now I can say panel a message, and we see, oh, none type, none type, none type. Well, to be honest, I'm gonna be perfectly honest here. That's not what I was expecting. Did I see it say create a it said creating panel. And it tries to find it and can't. So we might print again window.panels just to see what I did wrong. And now it says panel already exists. Output.remote underscore build. Oh. I don't think I have to specify that there. I think that is the issue. There we go. Okay, sometimes that messes you up from time to time. It doesn't have the name output when you use it here, but it does have the name output when you use it in the other place. Perhaps let's create a new window and try it in here. So I'm going to do that and say this, and it's creating a panel, and if I look, it says a message. And then I'm going to do it and say another message, and it will say the panel already exists. And when you look at the panel, see that. Okay, so we clearly also need a little new line type action on the message that you provide. How hacky is that? Pretty hacky? Pretty hacky. But if I do it again, we're getting what we want. Okay, so we can get rid of that. We can get rid of that and that. And save, and now we load it, and we say a message. Now again, that panel is going to always have that stuff in it until we say window.create output panel remote build. Now this is a panel that already exists. See it return to view, and now when we look, it is empty again. And if I call panel a test message, then the result you see in there is that. So maybe if we know that that's the case, incidentally, putting force true here causes the append command to append the output to the view even if it's read only, such as there. So maybe I say panel equals false here. And then I say if panel and put this stuff up here, we get the current window. And then if that panel doesn't exist, it creates it. Then it finds the panel, it appends the message plus a new line. And we get rid of that entirely. And that seems to have reloaded. So now I can say from Devember.network import log. And if I said log, this is a message with message equals test. Oh, whoops. That's not going to work. This is a test message. And if I added panel equals true, now just to verify, when I do this, we see a test message. But the remote build is typing this as a test message. And I do that again. And if we look in the panel, now it says this is a test message. Okay, so were that to be the case, pardon me and my super itchy ears, and do we care about this? We'll say panel is true. We care, well, do we care about the connection manager per se? If it's just the build output, no, we don't. But we are going to look at all of our messages, so let's do that. And I'm primarily doing that because, hey, I'm using this nice font. We would add connecting to, and here we might actually say host colon port. Well, actually, I guess we'd probably do it this way to save time. And we're going to, why was I even doing that to begin with? You don't have to do that. That's irritating. 0, 1 for host port and panel equals true. Just to see what we see. So that's what we see there. When I do this, the console says that it's connecting to, oh, right. I gotta save that file too. Okay. And do that. We see connecting to Dart 50,000. So that looks like what a person might want for there. Gracefully closing. We don't really care about something gracefully closing. We want to say, do we care about it creating a connection? I'm going to say at this stage, we no longer care about that. And well, for our own debugging purposes, maybe we do, because we want to verify that that is still going away the way one might hope. And we still need to implement register and unregister, and that's what we're going to do soonish. Remove, send. So here, again, we would say 0, 1, and we would say we have like properties, right? Host import, yeah. And self.host, self.port, and panel equals true. And here we're going to say 0, 1, 2. We're going to say self.host, self.port. Actually, you know what? Maybe we're going to do it this way because we're going to need more room anyway. We're actually maybe even close that so that compiles. And we're going to say self-host, self-port, os.stir error code. We're going to fix this before it goes wrong, and we're going to say panel equals true and close it. So we either see a connection established in the panel or we see a connection failed in the panel. And what else we got? Error while sending. We're going to change this to, it just displays the error and then it's going to say that it's closing the connection, right? That is something that we're going to have to jigger to. Error while sending. We do have an error while receiving, right? Okay, so we're going to say send error 0, 1, 2, and that's going to be self.host, self.port, e, panel equals true. And we'll replace this as well. And we don't care about creating the network. We care about the logs in the thing, but we don't care about any of that, including that one. And that one will clean that up a little bit. And what we also want is here, we don't want to say gracefully closing. We just want to say closing connection. Whoops, that's not the one I wanted. So line 140, whereabouts were we actually doing cool stuff in send, right? We'll do that and jump back to that line and paste this and say closing connection, like so. Now this one can actually be on one line because it's pretty short. We don't have to say we're gracefully closing anything. Now, I'm going to leave that open there and go over to this window on the right and run the command over here. But I think that's going to be unhappy for me, right? Yeah, because it's happening over in this window. And this is the output we see. Connecting to, connection failed, connection refused. So let's just sort of think about that for a second. If I did that here, we need a way to bring that build output to the top so we can see it. But we are saying connecting to, connection failed. Now, why do we see that one twice? Might be the issue of the day. Oh, because that's the one we did the first time. I'm going to do it one more time. Oops, no, only once. Clearly that is a pain in the butt to do. And we do need to clear this at some point. So maybe we can easily create a command for that, I think. Incidentally, if the question was posed, do you go off the rails this quickly in a general case and not just when you're doing a Devember? The answer to that would be yes. Now, I'm going to say that what we need for the log here, whoops, we'll zoom that back out again. What did I do? Yes, we do want that to be gone. Well, we'll do that. But when we look for log, we do want to do the thing that I was thinking of before. We're going to add a setting like so that when we build the panel, a setting is applied to it. Now again, I'm going to quit and restart just to make sure that that panel does not exist as per yet. And then when I run the command, the panel does exist, like so. And we see that. Now, one thing we might want it to do is pop that up whenever output is actually generated to that thing. At least for now. That's probably something we don't want that in the general case, perhaps, but while we're testing this stuff, perhaps we do. Now we can see that. So we can actually say window.run command show. Shows a panel. Why does that not show up? The argument is panel. Okay, so we'll try it. Window.showPanel and the window.run command show panel, and the arguments are panel of output.remote build, like so. Normally args are panel output.remote build. So now that that's in place, when I do this, we can see that it's connecting to, why do we not see the other part of the message? Oh, because I broke it. Well, that's a good reason. That is a good reason. At line 468, in send, in close, in remove, in close connection. Shouldn't be self.host. I should have known that. This should both be, oops, connection.host port. And now it's too long, so we can jump it down like so. So now when we do it, do we get errors now? Be darned if we don't see close connection appearing there, which is interesting because I would have thought that we also don't see it saying pa. So did we bust something too severely here that this is no longer doing something? No, we didn't. We need to reload that file. Now it's broken because the broken version of the code is still there. So we'll go one more time. Look at that. Its connection manager is initializing, entering the network loop, no updated packages. I hit the thing and we see connecting to, connection failed, closing connection. And then if I do it again, connecting to, connection failed, closing connection. Now what would be nice is if there was a nice way to inject some sort of blank line in there for different sessions, but we can only do so much, and I'm fighting with all of my might to not create a simple syntax to assign to that thing. But the whole point of doing that was to set that setting that we chose when we created the panel in log. This one. So that we could now, this is sort of an unfortunate kind of, I don't want to save as that because I'll get a second one. Well, we'll do it this way. New plugin and save, and we're going to have to go down into this. And oops, panel.py, let's say. Now let's say remote build clear panel command. And we want that to be a window command. Well, no, I guess we don't. It could be an application command, really. Yeah, we're going to pick window command. And it's not going to have that. Now, the reason we're doing that is because every window has its own list of panels. And we're going to need a window to be able to ask if there is a panel. So we might say def is enabled. And we need some sort of view. And then we say return view.settings.get that and false. So somehow we're going to come up with a view. Somehow. I think I over-adjusted my headset. Hang on just a second. There we go. Somehow we're going to get a view. And then when we do have a view, We're going to ask its settings if it has this. This parameter is the setting the value that's used for the setting if it doesn't exist. So if the setting doesn't exist, the value of this is false. Otherwise, it's the value of the setting. We're going to test it for truth heat. Now, technically, a setting that's not set is a setting. This would return none, and that'll still work. But we like to do the cool stuff. View equals self dot. No, let's see. We want this to be a text command. Now that I think about it, because we want to say self.view. Well, we'll call this panel is equal to self.view. Well, actually, no, we don't even have to do. We don't even have to do that, do we? Just do this. I'm overthinking. This command is only active in a view that has a setting of type RBNetWindow. We might also say is visible self and return is enabled self. Oh, sorry, self dot is enabled. So the command is only enabled in views where the RBNetWindow setting is set to true, and the command is only visible in windows where it is enabled. Otherwise, it's invisible. And when we run, we say self.view dot set read only false and set read only true. And then we say self.view.run command select all and self.view.run command left delete. Like so, and say and the last thing that we need, because you'll note when we look at this, we do see open console in window, but what we don't see is all of these options there. So if I was to user and say context menu, widget context.sublime menu is the one we want to move. We're going to save that as down into this package like so. And now, although those things are twice, we don't want toggle setting and we don't want that. What we do want is, well, remote build clear panel, I guess. Like so. We'll actually add a caption to this, and the caption is clear build output. So that when we do that and do something, we see this, but we can right click and pick clear build output. And I forgot an important thing. It's a text command. So now it does need one of those, but I could still have this open. So technically speaking, if we're going to have to do it that way, I'm going to guess we could probably say because I'm not used to doing that sort of, oops, that's not the erase I want. This is, ow, this is the erase I want. Excuse me, I did not mean to bump the headset. I'm having a bad headset bump night. This is probably as simple enough as saying edit and sublime.region 0 len self.view. To be perfectly honest, I don't That should probably do what we want just on its own. So there's some output. And no, I guess we probably do need to do a little bit of that. So this is the way that I would normally erase output because I don't normally create a text command for something like this, but this is the easiest way to make this be enabled. I suppose if it was a window command, it could use self.window.activeView and then we could do it that way. But now the important thing to note there is clear build output appears here in this window, but it doesn't appear. It's grayed out when it should actually be invisible because it's not enabled. So that's kind of interesting. Am I forgetting how that works? I might be forgetting how that works. Text command is visible. Well, that certainly looks like it's something that should be doing something, but it's not. That is an intriguing bit of action. It's definitely reloading. It's definitely not calling the thing at all. That part works. Well, honestly, if I create a new window, in that window, we got a little bit of that action. We can definitely clear it. Clear it. There's no build output yet. If I went to the SFDP output, it doesn't appear there. Now it's saying viz down there. Did I not do that in the place I thought I did? No, see here it is in the console, and it's not happening there. But it does happen in other place. I'm going to say that's some sort of weirdo bug or something. We're going to leave well enough alone on that one. And okay, we can close that. So now when we do stuff, we can see that happening. That's pretty good. The thing that does the other nice thing is this command has a window command. So every window has its own connection object, but the plugin as a whole references the same connection manager. So if there's multiple windows running this command, they'll each get their own unique connection object, but they'll still share the same network manager, which is what we want to have had happening. Now, I suppose for our own edification, we need to .NET run this thing. Note that it also doesn't appear in that panel. And I say this, and there we go. So that popped up, and the connection is actually established to our little operation. So connection failed. Now it closed the connection. It connected to connection established. I actually received some data, and if I came over to here and see, it also thinks the connection is still open, which is also important. So now when I do this, I still get a message. The remote build output doesn't say anything. And if we went to this, it also sent another message. So it's persisting that connection, which is also what we wanted. And when I quit there and I look in the remote build output, I guess it doesn't know that it's disconnected until we try to do something. Or is it just impossible to detect now when a connection has been lost? Because it seems to me that the connection should select for readability if it is disconnected. So that might be also another issue that we have. And do we want that in the panel? I don't think we do. Maybe the issue is in here. I'm going to just temporarily remove that. Okay, now I'm going to reload this. Now it thinks the connection is closed because it went away and came back. So I am going to clear that output and go like so, and we see connection refused. Okay, and then oops, I pushed the wrong key. We do that. We .NET run like so, and we do it again. Now we see it connecting, connection established. There we go there. And what happens if I kill this? Apparently nothing was logged. So for some reason, we can't tell if there are connections broken. Not gonna lie, that is kind of a little bit of a problem. Now I guess that makes sense. If it had not been connected, we would have found out about it. So is the server not doing an orderly shutdown of the socket? Is that perhaps an issue? Oh, there's totally a bug over here. I did this accidentally. None type has no attribute shutdown. Now it's unhappy about that. We'll start it again. Okay. Entering message loop. Then we go like that. Oh, actually, let's try it this way first. CD, whoops, CD remote build server and .NET run there. And once we know it's running, we get a connection. And then if I kill that, maybe because I control C'd it, that's why it doesn't notice. That still thinks it's good. And if I do this, see, there's the other issue. It should be noticing that its connection is hosed. But that's just sort of a side effect of that thing. It's not selecting for readability or writability because perhaps the socket went away somehow. So that's going to be something that we need to determine. Why don't we get told when a connection closes on us? Let's go ahead and look at our little diff here. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's check these changes. Now, everything that is here is just a log change to something that was already happening. So I think this is us changing the signature of log. This is us adding an extra thing in log, and as an untracked file, we want to do, because log added something, we want to do that and say, whoops, amend the log code to also output to a panel. There is a new optional argument to the log command that sends the logged text to the build to the remote build output panel in the current window. Current window, creating it if needed. This also includes a command to clear that window for us. And if we look at what we have staged, we have the command that we added. We have our modification. Now, if I actually was to do something like this, we can see all of that happens in one thing at the top of the file there. We change the structure and we add this. Oh, we're not, no, we are, we're setting it to false there. And we have a command that only enables itself when that setting is set, and it's only visible when it's enabled, except for in the console for whatever reason, and it just makes the file temporarily read-only, erases the entire content, and then sets the read-only to be true. And we can go ahead and commit those files. Now, if we look, that is an innocuous change to just fix things. And here, these are things we are now adding. Instead of logging the whole connection, it logs a connection to the host import to the panel in addition to other places. It says it's closing the connection to the host import, which is clearly never getting called in any fashion. It says the connection is established to the host import, and it says that there's connection failed. And here there's a send error, and there is a receive error. And that. So we might say tweak up some of the logs. This includes a new panel equals true argument to the log command calls in all of the places where the text that's logged should appear in the remote build output panel. Now, maybe for our own purposes, we will, print, we will log receive. So anytime a socket gets called to receive data, we'll know, and every time it gets called to send data, we will know. But we'll change that to send. Like so. Reload that file and do that. And we see that. Okay, so now we're going to close. We're going to clear the output, and we're going to go back to here and run that and do like so. And we see a send, which tells us that its connection is established. We got the receive that told us that it actually received some data. And now we're not seeing anything because that connection has nothing to send and it has nothing to receive. So I'm going to come over to here and kill that. And we are getting a butt ton of receive calls here. Okay, so that is probably good. That would explain why that doesn't work, because we're getting this, but we're not. Oh, see, that's probably the issue there, because we should be throwing an exception if their error was blocking IO. So let's just double check with socket.receive to see what it returns. The bytes object, the amount of data returned. Well, I'm going to say this. recv was that, and new data. And save it. Now, again, we need to have a connection to start with. And we need to do that. And we do this. And we see what we expect. Then we come to here, kill that. And we're not seeing that. So it didn't do it here. What are the other ways for this to return without anything? Okay, break, break, break. We might say log like so. Now, of course, we see what we expect to see there, and we're going to clear that output. And come back to here, do that. We received some data, come back to here, kill it. We still see that. I would imagine no matter how many times we clear it, it's still doing that. So we're going to reload. Okay. Got to save that and save that so that both of those things go away. Now we're going to save that one. We're going to save that one. Try it one more time. These are the sorts of weird errors that you can have sometimes when you're working with a package. Do so, everything's good. Kill. So again, we'll do this. Maybe we just get no data. Maybe this doesn't do what I want. We'll say not recv here. Okay. Now we're going to save network. We're going to save that to make sure both of those actually work. And we're going to clear this build output and restart that and get ourselves a good connection. And then we are going to come back and kill it. And I do not grok. I'm not saying panel equals true there. Son of a bitch. Were we seeing anything in here? Yes, we were. Okay. Eesh. That is an unfortunate turn of events. Panel, I fell into the trap. How many people were watching this and thought that that was hilarious? Hopefully many. So we need to clear the build output. And its connection refused. I'm going to just very quickly add this to our little, whoops, not that one, this one. Okay, let's see. We're going to run the command append with characters and force true and scroll to end true. So that if there's a bunch of stuff in the panel, it jumps to the bottom. So there we go. So if I do it again and again, yeah, there we go. So if that's all the way up there at the top, it is not going to the bottom, unfortunate way. Well, you just saw me add that there, right? So save that, show the build. We can only do so much. Clear the build output, and we will go to here and do .NET run so that it's running, and we got a connect. We got the hello world bytes. Then we come back to here and do that. And we're getting not recv, which is what I originally would have expected to have happened. There we go. None type has object has no attribute recv. Okay, so that is good. Except for that part. No, that one. So we're going to turn off. Now, if not new data, then the connection was closed, right? So we might say self.close because self.close tells the manager to remove us and then return. In fact, I'm going to be non-idiomatic and do that and that. And we don't care about that most assuredly. And for the time being, we also don't care about that. Now, maybe we care about the same thing here. But we're going to leave well enough alone on that one for now. Kill, save, save. So connection, closing connection, we're going to clear the build output, fire that up. Run our command. We see we got something. We come over here and kill it and immediately says closing connection. Now, there we could actually capture the reason for the close or something like connection closed by remote host or something. But that is enough for that. And if I came over here, we really want that one to be the thing. So what do we want to do? I really want to fix this one to include that and then fix that one. What's the good way, whoa, to do that? Oh, I have a little bit of coffee left here. Hang on a second. There. Problem solved. Chihuahua. Let's create a branch here. We'll call it temp. Oh, fudge. Stash the changes. Like so. No, there's no changes. No, there's probably a better way to do this, but if I create a branch here and just call it test, like so, and then I don't want to pop, I want to apply. Oh, can I do that from this menu? It's been a long time since Right on. Okay. There's one unstaged file, so I'm going to discard that hunk, and I'm going to stage this hunk, and I'm going to commit. Can I amend the previous commit? We'll just say blah, like so. Now there's a commit there, and we actually want to squash these commits. Can I do that? Do, do, do. Oh, before I do that, because I'm not sure, I'm going to copy that. This is stuff that I have not much fiddled with. So edit commit, squash selected commits. There we go. And here we are. That was not the right commit, was it? Oh, boy, I really boned that up. Okay. That commit has not the stuff I want. This commit has the stuff I want. Now that's the stash. This is the master. Did I squash that into master? I don't think I did. I am absolutely conflustered now at what the hell the state of this thing is. So clean up the network code a bit. Then at this connection, let us check out this commit. Just to look. Showing my ignorance of Git, and it is most certainly not there. And then this one, and check out this commit. There is not what we expect to see there. And check out this commit, and we do not see it there. Check out this commit. There it is. Okay, so this display a message when we're trying to. Okay, so that branch. Can I delete this commit? Tweak some of the logs. We want that commit on this branch. That's the thing. We want to also, maybe this branch just becomes the new master, you know? You know what? I've never actually fiddled with cherry picking commits onto my own branch before. Might as well fiddle with that, right? How much more can I break it at this point? Ba-ba-ba. I probably need to check out test. Amend the log to also, we actually want this one. Cherry pick this commit. There we go. So now our branch says display a message when we're trying to do something, and then we amend the log, which is that. Then we tweak up some of the logs, and the last thing we do is, well, we can pop it, I suppose. It'll conflict or some dumb nonsense. Doop, fix that particular bug, and we'll stage that hunk and say as a bit of an oversight, the code for the socket.recv call returning none and not throwing a blocking IO error is an indication that the connection has been closed by the remote host since we selected for reading without actually getting any data. Right? And I'm going to go ahead and reset. Oh, nope, sorry. I'm going to check out master. And I'm going to reset master to this commit. There are no local changes, right? We'll do that. Whoops. Well, maybe I didn't want to do that. We'll unstage that. There we go. Why do we have more stuff here than one would have expected? Did I not repair that back here in this one? Tweak up some of the logs. Now the change there is that. Now the unstaged changes here are receive has both of those things. So I'm going to discard. There we go. And we can delete branch test. And that's how you resolve various Git issues if you're a boob. So let's just double check. We say that the log command forces and scrolls to end, and we tweak some of the logs to display nicer stuff, and we do that. Now, we may actually want to do the same thing with send. Sends data, must be connected, optional flags, returns a number of bytes sent. Applications are responsible for checking the data has been sent if only some was transmitted. I assume the answer to that's going to be 0 because, again, we're going to leave that for now. So we've gotten, our action here, not too shabby, I don't think. And just because I didn't test this last time, I'm going to quit. I'm going to restart. And if I do that, connection was failed, but if I run it, if I cd into there and run it, then it works like so. And if I come, if I come to here and kill it, it immediately closes connection. So we're going to call that good enough. Now what we're still missing is the network code for register. I wonder how easy that would be. This happens on a connection. I had a thought about how this could work. It could invoke the callback with a connection object, and it's up to you to figure out what to do to know if it's connected or not. Or it could invoke it when it gets a message to tell you that it received a message. We could also create fake messages for connected, disconnected, and have the appropriate code stick them into the receive queue and then raise the notification. And then when the thing pulled it out, it would know what to do. And it could also make that code be responsible for knowing exactly what sort of message it was. And basically what we would do there is close this file because we don't care anymore. Come here. Now, we could make a message that says connected message and disconnected message, they would have to have their own message ID, but throw an error when you encode them so that you would know what to do with it on the remote end, or whenever there's an event. Now, I believe because we can ask a connection if it's connected or not. So if we invoked a callback, you could see if it was connected or not and do something as appropriate. Let's just see. I mean, I've been staying up late for the last little while. Let's see what we can do here. So let's say self dot callback is equal to none. Let's say. Let's just say that. And receive is for getting a received message, so we don't care about that. We're going to skip over both of those for the time being. When you call close, after that, we might say if self dot callback, then we're going to pass it self. Maybe we'll do it down here. We might say if self.callback, and then we can say self.raise. To raise a notification, okay, if there is a registered listener, trigger a callback to let the other end know that there is a change in state for us. Right? This is just our test version to see if we can trigger stuff, and then we can and get it smarter later. So when do we care? When we call close after we have been removed, which is after we've been marked as not connected, then we raise a notification. In send, if we discover that we have connected, then we can self.raise after we say that it happened. And if the connection failed, we can self.raise after we know that it happened. We need that to happen after this part so that the thing can introspect. We don't care about that. When we receive, self.close is going to automatically raise, so we don't care about that. And if we put something into the receive queue, we might actually, that's a while true, right? So we might actually say, got message is equal to false. And if the length of that is this, then we did that, and then we can say got message equals true. And when we get down to here, if we have received one or more messages, we can say if got message self.raise. And that's probably all the ones that we need. We also, I guess, need to what did I call it if not register? Oh, it's not underscore register, it's just register. My bad. We're going to get a callback that should happen. So we're going to say self Now this doesn't satisfy the fact that there could be more than one listener, so we'll do that just for testy type purposes. That has been reloaded. Now over here, we are going to say something. We're going to need a lambda. After a connection is, oh, there's one more thing that we should maybe do here. And we're going to test this all out. After a connection has been closed, we raise, we tell the manager whenever close is called by someone else, by our own code when we discover there's a problem. We call close. That tells the connection manager to remove us, which disconnects us. And then once it's done that, then we can raise so that after we've been closed, then we send a notification to say that we are closed now. And after that, we can say self.callback is none, because once the connection is closed, no more events going to trigger. We want to make sure we don't keep that around. That's my guess for what we want to do. And here we're calling self lambda self.result. So we might say here, if self connection is none or self connection socket is none, then self connection equals to net manager connect and self.connection.register a lambda con, whoops, which is self.result con. Then we send the message. We don't add a timeout. We do add a connection here. We don't say self dot connection. We say instead of saying log dialog true here, we're going to say panel is true. And here we're going to log callback for host port connected or disconnected. And the first argument is connection.host, connection.port. Let's go ahead and do it this way. Connected if connection.connected, else disconnected, and panel is true. And then we try to receive a message, and if there isn't one, we do that. Okay, so that is unhappy because I forgot to put a comma. And none type has no attribute shutdown. Oh, for the love of Pete. Why is that such an issue, I ask you? In test client at line 37, net manager shutdown. None type has no. Yeah. If net manager is not none, then do that. In what universe does this manage to unload the plugin and then unload the plugin again without unloading it first? I don't know. But now it's going to be doing that for forever, so we need to quit and restart, which at least gives us a clean action. So now, if I do this, connected to, okay, so we got connecting to, connection failed, closing connection, and we got a callback to tell us that this connection is disconnected. Okay, and if I try it again, we get a connection that says this is disconnected, but we only see it once, which is good, because if it didn't clear the thing out, it might happen more than once or something. Now we open this. Remember to CD into remote build server, .NET run the server so that it's spun up there. Come over here, do this. Now there you go. We can see it saying connected. That's it connecting. Here is it telling us that we received a message, but it just says connected because that's what, it's just printing the state. But we get it right away. And every time that happens, that happens. So this is a longer test just to prove that this seems to do what we want it to do. And instantly, just like that, no hacky hackersons. Although perhaps I might want to do a little something like that. And look at that, it closed the connection. And now it connected and received hello world. I'm going to call that some modicum of success. I'm going to kill that, and that's disconnected. And I'm actually going to, since we're already doing stuff here, look and see what do we got. In network.py, we got various things. Okay, so let's just quickly verify the class has a callback that's set to none to make sure that property is set instead of passing on this particular option. We now set a callback. We now call raise, and then callback is none. When we close, raise is added here, and if there is a callback, it runs it. Now that we can easily add another parameter here to say connection state changed or received message or something, so that the thing that gets the callback knows instead of having to guess. If the connection is established, then we raise the connection to tell it that it is connected. If the connection wasn't established, we raise a thing to tell it the connection failed. And during a read, if a read operation puts at least one thing into the queue, but potentially any number of things as long as it's one or more, then raise one notification at the end, which means that in this client's code, it's the job of this thing to do receive in a while loop. It could also try to retrigger the connection once for every message, but then it's calling something every time it's put something in the queue. This may not also be the exact way that we want to do this. We may want to, I'm going to check this in first. We may want to use something to get it off of our thread. So we'll give that a test in just a second. So the first thing we're going to do is stage this and say include a test implementation of notifications. This adds a simple test notification service to the connection object so that external code can be notified when an interesting event happens. Currently, this is not as informative as it could be, but it proves that we can detect when we're connected, disconnected, failed to connect, or received a message. And we're going to go ahead and commit that file. And we're going to jump into here very quickly to say that if we were to, in raise, sublime.set timeout, it should still work in the same state. So it started the message loop. It still works. Oh, well, it would work. And we're gonna be safe and stop and start everything from the get. Okay, so we can see it creating the network thread and the connection manager initialized. And then we're going to go into here and cd into remote build server and .NET run. I am really terrible about getting things done in a timely fashion. And I'm going to run this. We see it's connecting, connected, callback, Dart connected, and then we got another callback to say that we received a message. And now we would just receive one saying that. So that is still working. And if I come here and kill that, we get the notification that it's closing the connection. Now, what does this do that the other one doesn't? It invokes the callback in the main Sublime thread instead of calling it from inside the network thread, which means we could actually, if more than one message came back at once, we could submit the notification every time we receive a message instead of just one, because it's going to queue them up on the main thread and they would happen one after the other, after the other, after the other. And to test that, after I stage this hunk and amend the previous commit, I'm going to go back into this code and go to got message equals false. And we're just going to say self.raise here and remove that. Okay, now we're going to run that. We're going to do this. See this? We got the message hello world. We got the message hello world. We got the message hello world. Now I'm going to come over here to this particular client and I'm going to do that. Okay. And we're going to quit and restart to make sure absolutely everything is in a known state. So I try to run it and I get connection failed, closing connection. And object is not callable. There is an issue on line 325 where there wasn't before in the network code. That's not Git, it's this one. Object is not callable. That's interesting. I'm going to leave that alone for now and just get the other part done. If I do this and cd into remote build server and .NET run thusly, I'm going to do this. Now we can see it saying we got connected, then it received, then we got another one, and then we got another one. So all three of those happened back to back to back. So we managed to do that. So that part is working okay. And the only part that seems to be an issue is the set timeout for when it destroys a connection. And I'm not sure if that was an issue before or not. To be perfectly honest. But we do need to maybe we don't do that. Did we get that twice before? I'm going to quit and restart. We get the one for trying to connect, and they get the one for connection failed. I think that's why we're seeing two of them there. If we look at all the places where raise is called, When it's closing the connection, we see it. When it's actually connected, when its connection failed, when we received something. So we don't get one at that point. So why are we, as a matter of fact, seeing multiples of those without knowing why for sure? We can't tell. So maybe we're going to this one. Let's revert all of these changes back out, shall we? Those are easy enough to add. And we'll just see. And then we're going to call her quits for the night because it is pretty late. Fire that up. Now, within this state, I don't seem to get any notification because Sublime set timeout lambda self callback. Okay, so that one might also have been at issue. So maybe we'll just temporarily back that one out too. I think we just called there in raise. I guess the issue with that is it has to keep a reference to this until then. So there's probably a Python-y way to pull that off. That is probably what the issue is. So we're going to jump to raise and we're just going to call as we did before, like so. And we'll worry about that another day. And quit and restart. And now we'll put that back to, there we go. We get the callback like we expect. We get the callback like we expect. Yeah, the reason for that is the doing it in another thread, the self in the lambda got collected before. I think that's something along those lines. And we say include an implementation of notification. So what we're going to do is stage this hunk in network and amend the previous commit. And then in test client, we're just going to very, very quickly do that. Quit, restart. Note that when we try to connect, nothing happens. We go to here, we go to remote build server.net run. It is connecting. We do this and we get a notification that it's connected and we receive the message right away. And if we go back over here and kill that, we get the notification that it's disconnected. And then we stage that file and say, use the new notification system in the client code. Is a simple modification to the client code that ensures that we can get notifications when connections are made and broken, as well as when we receive messages. This replaces the previous manky test code wherein we used set timeout to check for a message after a while. And we're going to create a tag for day 11 and push the commits and push the tag for day 11 up. And that is going to be the end of this stream that went 40 minutes long, not counting the stuff I did at the beginning. I was only supposed to do 1 hour. I did 2 sometimes. This is capturing what I do in my Devember. I do indeed spend possibly more time than is healthy. I've never noticed that this doesn't have a status time before. In any case, that is going to do it for tonight. Tomorrow, we're definitely going to be working on the protocol that we're using and how we're going to configure a build. So expect there to be not a lot of coding tomorrow, perhaps. And what it is going to be is a description of us working out how we want this to work and how best to configure it. And at this is at the point where we're going to know how our build system works, and then we're going to be able to use that to determine how to go forward. And it's probably going to be a first-hand experience in how, when a task is big and it seems daunting, pick something that it seems like you know how to do and do that part, and then look at the total of what you have to do and pick another thing that you think you can do and go. Don't try to focus on finishing the whole thing from top to bottom. Just cherry pick bits and pieces that you know how to do and whittle that down. But until that time, I am going to drop out of this, sadly and quickly, hopefully, create a vlog post and get it up and running. So until tomorrow, have a sublime day.